Aloha mai kako. My name is Kalei Galarita and I'm the STEM Outreach Coordinator. I want to warmly welcome you to Kapiolani Community College STEM program SOEST ʻina. This event today is being moderated and facilitated by Keanu Rashett Yusuen, an Imi Na'oau STEM peer mentor and Geopath grant recipient. We're happy to host guest speakers Dr. Barb Bruno, Faculty Specialist at Hawaii Institute of Geophysics and Planetology, Dr. Michael Guidry, Department of Oceanography Associate Specialist and Undergraduate Chair, and our graduate student panelists. Mahalo nui for joining us.
I would like to start with a poll asking you just to answer these questions for yourselves. Do you feel you should go to university after graduating from Kapiolani Community College? And do you think you should do a STEM major? So this is specifically for yourself, not in general if you think somebody else should. Okay, so these were the results that you shared. Most people felt overwhelmingly, 95%, 19 out of 20 respondents felt that they should go to university, and about 3/4, which is 75%, 15 out of 20 felt they should do a STEM major. So I would agree as far as should I go to university. Whether or not you do a STEM major, that of course depends on your interests, what you're interested in. But one of the best reasons to go to university is for the money. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that there really is a strong relationship between the education you get and the amount of money you make, and you need to make money to live in Hawaii. So what this chart shows is that every time you get an extra degree, whether it's a high school diploma, an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, or a graduate degree, which could be a master's or a PhD, on average, you'll see a really nice pay bump. And another thing you can notice in this graph is that with each degree, your chance of getting unemployed goes down. And that's important in general, but it's especially important now under COVID, when we really are facing big unemployment problems here in Hawaii. And having more degrees, having more education is the best way to basically preserve your employability. It's basically insurance against being fired. And these numbers that you're looking at, these are averages across the country and averages across all different kinds of occupations. And one thing to keep in mind is STEM fields in general pay above average, and graduate school is often free. When I say free, I mean free tuition, and you also get a job to cover your living expenses. And for undergraduate, when you pay tuition, there's a lot of financial aid available, and there are counselors available to help you navigate the process, both at KCC as well as within UH Mānoa. But I think there's a better reason besides the money to go to a university, and that's really to find a job you love. When you go to a university, you're going to be exposed to all different kinds of classes, all different kinds of fields, areas you didn't even know about. I mean, often when we start out in high school and at community college, we think of the basic sciences: biology, chemistry, math, engineering, computer science, physics. And we don't realize you can also major in something that applies those areas to the environment. And at least for me, I'm a geologist now, but when I started college, I didn't really know what geology was. I knew it had something to do with rocks, but I had no idea who would employ you to be a geologist. And it's also important, I think, to help Hawaii as far as ocean, earth, and environmental science careers go. And that's because we have so many environmental challenges that are facing Hawaii, and it really helps to have people that are from Hawaii, as well as people maybe from other places who come to Hawaii and have made it their home, to really help tackle these solutions, to tackle these problems, and to be part of the solution. So what you're looking at here is present sea level, And here, what I'm going to show you right now is light blue areas. These are places all over the coast that are believed to go underground. They're projected to go underground, underwater, I mean, by the end of the century with a 1 meter sea level rise. So again, this is the way it is now. And these are the areas that are going to go underwater if we have a 1 meter sea level rise. So these are big problems. I mean, this is Waikiki, our economic engine of the state. Our airport is projected to go underwater. So we really need to be tackling these problems with a scientific approach. So there are a whole lot of careers, very wide-ranging careers in ocean, earth, and environmental science. And typically, we think of these as being outdoor careers, taking samples, working on volcanoes, working in forest management, doing work on boats. But there are also a lot of jobs that are indoors. So if you like working in a lab, or you like working on computers, or you like working in space science or planetary science, there are a lot of indoor jobs as well as outdoor jobs. So don't feel, if you like to be inside, that ocean, earth, or environmental science career is not right for you. Who hires ocean, earth, and environmental scientists in Hawaii? Well, a whole lot of different government agencies, as well as a lot of private companies. We now have about 20 of our students and recent graduates interning at these various agencies. For example, at the Department of Health, we have somebody in the Clean Water Enforcement Division, as well as a previous intern who was in Clean Air, who now has a permanent job there. We have someone working in vegetation management at Haleakala National Park on Maui. We have someone at DAR, Division of Aquatic Resources, growing coral on Sand Island. We have 2 interns at the Board of Water Supply. One is in Hydrology Geology Division, and the other is in the Communication Division. We have about 10 interns at NOAA and Papahanaumokuakea combined. They're working on issues such as applying data science and machine learning to corals. They're also working on projects that try to connect and integrate Hawaiian traditional knowledge with Western scientific knowledge. And we have an intern at the USGS working in Hilo in the Hawaii Volcanic Observatory. So lots of government agencies want to hire ocean, earth, and environmental scientists, as well as a lot of private companies doing things like water sampling, environmental impact statements, a lot of engineering type jobs like with construction engineering or geotechnical engineering. So there are very wide-ranging career paths. So what would you major in if you were interested in one of these jobs? There are a lot of different degrees you can get in SOEST, and the names might be a little different to ones you've heard a few years ago, and that's because some of the names have changed recently. But you'll notice that one is called a BA, or a Bachelor of Arts, and 3 are called BSs, or Bachelors of Science. And a Bachelor of Arts degree generally means it's fewer science classes and more of a general education curriculum, while the Bachelor of Science degrees tend to be more focused. The Environmental Earth Science degree has 2 tracks, a regular track, for example, for somebody who might want to become an environmental consultant or environmental technician, as well as an education track for somebody who might want to go into, for example, become an earth science teacher. The BS of Earth Sciences, or the BS in Global Environmental Science, would have some more science classes to make the degree more science heavy, more science focused. And the BS in Atmospheric Science really focuses on weather and climate. So I know some of the other speakers are going to tell you more about these degrees, so I won't go into too much detail now. But I do want to tell you about a class. It's Ocean 201 Laboratory, which is an introductory oceanography lab called Science of the Sea. It's taught at KCC by Daniela Battier-Wilson, and she really tries extra hard to make sure this class is fun, engaging, and connects you to the environment. She generally runs the class. 1 week you're in the lab learning skills, and the next week you're out in the field applying those skills. And this class is a required course for all of those 4 majors, but it also fulfills general education requirement. So whatever you decide to major in, you will need to have a lab class, and this will fulfill this. And hopefully this can be offered in person next semester. Of course, we can't say that for sure, as it all depends on COVID. So I'd also just like to speak very briefly about the Miley program, the SOEST Miley Mentoring Bridge. And the mission is to recruit and retain Kama'aina, as well as underrepresented minority students, into SOEST degree programs through individualized mentoring and peer support. So even if you're not a SOEST major, but if you're considering being one and you'd like to become part of a community and learn more, you'd be very welcome to join the Miley program. And finally, my 10 minutes is just about up. So I do want to stop on time to make sure we have time for questions as well as for the other speakers. So I'm just giving you my name, Barb Bruno, and my email, barb@hawaii.edu. And if you'd like to ask any questions, you're welcome to do that now, either verbally or using the chat. And you're also welcome to just email me and we can chat later. And I also put my website there, barbarabruno.weebly.com, if you're interested in just learning a little bit more. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen and take any questions you have.
We had someone in the chat asking, why is the marine biology not integrated into SOEST?
Oh, that is a great question. And that is a historical thing. We do have a graduate degree in marine biology, which is part of SOEST. It's a joint degree between SOEST and the College of Natural Sciences. The undergraduate degree that's called marine biology is a very similar degree to what the pre-meds take. It's heavy on the biology and light on the marine. So that's offered through the College of Natural Science. But if somebody is interested in a marine biology degree, if they were to major in GES, the Global Environmental Science Program, which the next speaker is going to speak about, you can tailor that program to make it very focused on marine biology, if that's something that you're interested in. There might be other speakers who might have other answers to that question as well.
Okay, so we have another one. What type of jobs would NOAA offer?
Oh, wow. NOAA is such a far-ranging agency that they have so many different jobs. And I would say the way it works in NOAA is they have various divisions. So they have a science operations division. They have an ecosystems and oceanography division. They have a fisheries research and monitoring division. And they have a protected species division. So listening to the names, you'll hear a lot about biology. There's a lot of biological stuff with fisheries, lots of chemistry stuff. They do a lot of ocean acidification. There's physical stuff. There's also the National Weather Service, which is part of NOAA, looking at atmospheric currents, weather and climate. So I would say every possible job, if it has to do with the ocean or if it has to do with the atmosphere, NOAA will have a job. And NOAA has different divisions and departments here in Hawaii, as well as across the country.
If there is no more question, I think we can start with the next speaker then.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Bob, for all this information. So we're just going to jump right off to Dr. Michael Guidry. So if you would do us the honors, please share your screen.
Aloha, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Always great to speak with KCC folks. I'm really enamored with your guys' STEM Center. It's been a site of excellence for years now. Collaborations with your group between us at SOEST and Mānoa are fantastic. it's just really a nice group. And hold on a second. And the knock on of all of that is that the KCC students that have come in to the GS program, of which I'm the chair, have been very well prepared and done fantastic. So we're always happy to have the KCC students transition into GS. So just some background information. I just mentioned about the successes of the KCC students in our program. When you're at KCC, they do, again, a fantastic job with especially the introductory STEM. So your chemistry, your biology, your physics, and your calculus, fantastic. We love the students taking it there. In fact, we have some students that come to Mānoa, and I'll deny this if you say it, but we can kind of nudge them to go in that direction to take these classes because they're done so well there. One of the questions is what are the degree benefits? And we'll get to some of the outcomes in the end, but in terms of the benefits, it's customizable. And as Barb mentioned, we have a bunch of different tracks. I'm going to go over those. And one of the tracks, which is quote unquote general track, allows you to select from a list of courses, I think now that's well over 200 to decide how you want to flavor your degree. And the GS students really like that. And as a side of that, and the second point is the research benefit. So GS is one of, if not the only program at Mānoa that requires you to do a thesis. So you'll do a research project with a mentor. Barb is one of the mentors that served a lot of projects for students in our degree, and she's fantastic with that. So you work hand in hand with a mentor on a thesis research experience. And this is really special. I think if you're not in a professional degree program like engineering or accounting or becoming a teacher, something that really tracks into a job, that this research experience is how you can not just separate yourself, whether you're going for a job interview after the degree or on to grad school, but it adds a lot of skills and abilities that you just can't get from coursework. So this is really, really critical. And whether you decide to come to GS or one of our sister programs in SOEST, like atmospheric sciences or Earth, wherever you go, you've got to do some sort of extra or co-curricular activity like this if you want to add value to your degree, if you're not in a professional degree program. And so because of that customizable curricular experience and also deciding on what you want to do for research, like what interests you, really what you can do in GS is how do you environmental science? What's your interest? Is it, if it's in marine side, we can take care of it. If it's in law and policy, no problem. If it's with environmental economics, not an issue. We cover everything that's environmental related. That's a massive tent. Everything fits underneath it, basically, if it's STEM. And because of the STEM foundational requirements that we have, you're able to go in any direction. So Barb mentioned the tracks. Here's the list of them, and they're kind of growing on a regular basis. The first track is our general track. This allows you to completely customize what you want to do. It's our most popular. There's about half of our students are probably in it. Then you can see the other, let's see, 6 tracks now. Very quickly, environmental health. So that's in public health. So you're looking at how climate, environmental change are impacting public health related issues. Environmental anthropology with the anthropology department. I'm going to skip the RMI for a second and come back to it. Environmental planning. So that's with the Department of Urban and Regional Planning. So again, how do climate and environmental change impact, like Barb showed, a sea level rise? All of those things that start to impact the infrastructure, environmental planners are going to be engaged in how do we mitigate all of these issues. Sustainability science, sustainability is a big topic. We partner with HNEI, and so students can look at issues of sustainability in a quantitative way. And then finally, sustainable tourism, which is in partnership with the Travel Industry Management Department. Now, coming back to risk management insurance, this is our newest, and it's really exciting because I'm going to show you next a 4+1 that's related to this. But basically the insurance industry has to price in climate and environmental change into its cost. And so there's this opening field, and it's actually one of the projected largest growth areas in geosciences has to do with insurance. And so they need people that can understand climate and environmental change and what those drivers are and how they may impact, and also translate that into the business insurance side. So we partnered with Scheidler, and I'm really excited about this. So in addition, so those tracks are how you kind of get a concentration in GES, but we also have what are called 4+1s. And what a 4+1 is, the 4 is your undergrad degree and the 1 is your graduate degree. And these 4+1 pathways, they're faster and they're cheaper because what you're doing is you're double counting coursework between the undergrad and the grad space. And you're also reducing the time to get to both degrees. So these are the, what we call 4+1 programs. So you would get a bachelor's in GS, and then you would move on and you could get a master's in planning. You could get a master's in public health with an epidemiology focus. So if you're really interested in what's going down with COVID, that's a great fit. You can go on and get your post-bac certificate in secondary ed. So you, with a STEM focus, so you can be certified to teach in the state of Hawaii. And then the last one, which is also connected back with that risk management, is a master's in science and finance. And this is in partnership with Scheidler. All of these +1 programs are all accredited degrees. So if you get the master's in urban and regional planning, you can not only stay in Hawaii where there's a great demand, but you can go anywhere in the country. You can go to LA, you can go to Bangor, Maine. And if they have a planning job, it's going to require an accredited degree, and you've got one if you go to this program. All of these pathways are with accreditation programs. So they're really, really powerful, and they really mean jobs if you're interested in these fields. In terms of outcomes, where do our students go? I tend to split this into 2 areas. So job-wise in the job market, they go local, state, and federal environmental related organizations, agencies. Barb threw up a huge list of those. That's where they're going. They go into local and environmental consulting firms on the mainland. They go into teach, they go to planning, they go to public health. And hopefully we're gonna start pushing them into finance through this new track. About half of our grads go immediately to jobs. The other half go to grad school because of the preparation of not just their coursework, but the research thesis experience. So they'll go in, and within those that go to grad school, 50% will also go into the physical sciences. So they'll go into oceanography or geology, atmospheric sciences, engineering, and the other, about 40% will go into the social sciences. Then we still have students that go on and they're prepped to go to law school, to med school, and to engineering master's programs. So our students are they're really well prepared. The saying is, I think they're king of none, but jack of all kind of trades. They're very flexible and they can go on in a variety of directions depending on their interests. So I think that's about it. A little fast, but hopefully we got some questions here. Let me know either by chatting or I guess you can unmute.
Feel free to ask our speakers question. They're here for that. They really want to inform you.
And you can take down my information too, and I'll put that out if you need to contact.
Michael, I just wanted to ask you a question about the risk management because I didn't realize you were moving forward with that. I do remember we had a chat about, I don't know if it was like 6 months ago, where we were looking at some data and we found that the risk management jobs were the highest growing, I think it was the highest growing job sector in the geosciences. So could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the going back to it, this master's in science and finance pathway, which they're in the process of approving right now. This is an accredited master's of science and finance, and it would take you just a year of grad school to get. And if you go to Scheidler's website on this Masters of Science program, they talk about how exiting students are making between, I think, $85,000 to $90,000. That's the average amount. And so what this student that would have this, what they would have is they would have a foundational Bachelor's of Science in a STEM degree with climate sort of understanding, environmental change understanding, but in parallel, they're also going to be able to speak the business language of finance, of accounting, of business management. And that's really what the insurance industry needs, because they could bring in a climate, for example, expert to interpret a climate change report, but they have a difficult time translating that into what their business community uses. So they need these type of people that can straddle, that can speak the language of both sides, sort of an interpreter for each side in a way. And so, you know, Barb, it was really interesting. We were talking about that because when we went and talked to the Scheidler people about this, and we kind of were really hesitant and said, is this something? They kind of looked at us, not that we were kind of dumb, but they kind of looked at us like, yeah, what's the big deal? We do this stuff all the time. And so they have people at the local, the regional, the national, and the international levels that are all doing this, because the insurance and finance industry is a whole tiered system where there's sort of, as you go up the food chain, the pockets of money become bigger and bigger and bigger, the entities become bigger and bigger. And so they need this expertise at all these levels. So if you want to get into the game of how institutions, insurance industry, corporations are sort of figuring out how to handle this whole ball of wax, then this is a great pathway.
That's amazing. Does the audience have any question? Okay, then I feel like we can move on to the next section.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the information. I think it's very valuable for all the undergraduates that are attending this event.
Can I ask a quick question?
Oh yes, go ahead.
You mentioned that students would be working with faculty in like a thesis statement project. Would this carry on into their master's program, where they would complete it in?
Yeah, good question. So if it was a pathway, then there could be overlap with that. Although because it's a degree requirement for GS, we need to hit some mile marker where you've completed a body of work and you present it. So that's a co-requirement. You have to do a presentation at a public symposium and address audience questions. But some students that are doing their thesis project, say in urban and regional planning, and then going on to that, they are looking to extend that project in that master's degree space. So it is a bit of a stepping stone for them. Also, just one thing, and I forgot to mention this, but I do want to share this. Whether you do it in GS or somewhere else, doing a research experience with somebody is the best recommendation that you can get, because by doing a research thesis experience, you're going to have to work very intimately with your mentor for a very long time. They're gonna know everything about you, how you work, what you do, and the quality of their letter of recommendation for whatever you want to do, a job or go to grad school, so far outweighs any instructor that you went and got an A in a class with. It is incomparable to try to measure the two against each other. So again, in terms of your preparations for the next step in life, whatever you're deciding to do, having that weight of a respected faculty person being able to write a very deep and meaningful letter of recommendation for you is incredibly profound in all of those arenas when you're trying to be successful. So again, there's many aspects to why the research thesis experience is very, very good. You develop a lot of skills. you develop research-wise, you develop your ability to communicate with writing and oral presentations, and then you also come out with someone that can give you a detailed and strong recommendation. You can't be better set up for whatever direction you want to go in out of a bachelor's degree than that.
Any other questions before we move on? Okay, so I think it's my turn to speak then. Okay, so again, for those who just joined us, my name is Keanu Rochette Yutsun, and I am a student at Kapiolani Community College. So for this section, I'm just going to talk about my experience at KCC and also kind of at Mānoa, and why I decided to major in global environmental sciences. So that's my journey into deciding my major, basically. So first of all, I want to say that I'm from French Polynesia, and I did all my schooling over there, and I was always very good in biology specifically, not really much in the other sciences. But when I went to college, I knew that I wanted to do something that relates to a discipline of biology. And so in order to have more opportunities, because my country is kind of small in terms of academic opportunities and career opportunities, I decided to go to Hawaii to get a degree. So I started my college journey at Kapiolani Community College, and I was exposed immediately with many great opportunities, one being the mentoring program where I actually employed at. And so just being executive assistant and care mentor with this STEM program, it gave me access to the clubs and the student activities, as well as internship and scholarship opportunities. And the first summer that I attended the college, they pushed me to do this Ikevai summer bridge that is also through SOEST. At the time, I didn't really think too much about it because it was of math and physics. And I was like, oh, I want to do something related to molecular biology. That's really what I want to do. And so I did. I interned in a molecular biology lab at Mānoa. And here are my two mentors, Eric Tong on the left and Dr. Rosie Alegado on the right. And one of the first research experience I had was to analyze reef species samples that were from French Polynesia and do DNA extraction and sequencing on the specimens, just to see how connected the reefs in the windward island of French Polynesia were connected. I didn't get to do all the work because it was only a 10-week program, but I really got a lot out of this internship. First of all, it's a great learning experience that I got. I got a lot of lab techniques down, a lot of training done, and I met awesome mentors that really were behind me in order to support the project I was doing, even in the hard times. But what I also realized is that I didn't like really much the molecular biology, just because it's really lab focused. There is an outdoors component, of course, to collect all the samples, but I didn't like spending that much time in the lab. I really wanted to have an outdoor component to my research. And so in order to experience that, I went a whole 180 degrees opposite, and I contacted Dr. Wendy Kunz, who is a faculty at KCC, and she's doing evolutionary biology and ecology. And so she set me up with that project. Me and the college club at KCC, we went to the Hakalau Forest National Wildlife Refuge, and we were participating in a massive outplanting project with the refuge on the slope of Mauna Kea on the Big Island. And we added to this pool of data that the refuge is gathering in order to determine whether the outplanting was benefiting the forest on the slope of Mauna Kea. See if the restoration work was helping the forest, the fauna, and the flora. So it was really nice to have this outdoor component experience. It was just amazing to know that we're part of this very huge project. After that, I also got into this exchange program with Japan, and this is where culture and science kind of tie up together, because we were looking at the system, how to address sustainability through traditional knowledge. So we had two case studies, one in Hawaii and one in Japan, to see how they were able to live sustainably and resiliently for several centuries without the need of importation or exportation of goods and all these things. So that was a a great learning experience, again, just to get out and working with communities especially. And the last research that I've been doing was my personal research project, which I'm very proud of. It's like my pride and joy. It took 2 years to gather all the data to make the project as it is today. And so it started at KCC. So I was working with Professor Mike Ross, the faculty for botany at KCC, and Dr. John Berestek, who is a microbiologist. Later on, once we gathered enough data in the KCC lab, I also was able to work with people from the Smithsonian Institute of Conservation Biology, mainly Dr. Mary Hagedorn and the lab manager, Claire Lager. So here is what the project was about, just like a little summary. So I was looking at the Naupaka plant, which is an indigenous plant here in the Hawaiian Islands. And it was used in traditional medicine a long time ago, and it still is apparently. So they found through research that it was used to cure skin disorders, eye disorders, intestinal disorders, and everything. But one of the properties that was not really talked about was its sunscreen properties, and this is what I investigated during these 2 years of research. And so, in order to summarize, just so you know, the end of the conclusion that we had is that we calculated an SPF for the fruits of this plant at a value of SPF 20, and it only absorbs in the UV range, which is this graph that you're seeing here. So this area here is the UV range. So these are possible indication that we can make a possible sunscreen out of it that replaces some of the commercial sunscreen that we have in the market. And so the next step would be to determine if it was really safe or not, because we want to preserve marine ecosystems that are already fragile. It turns out that once we did the experiments, the extracts that we used were actually toxic to corals, and now you can see it with the white mark, the bleach mark that we have on these core fragments. So it's still an ongoing project, but this is what we got so far. And thanks to this project, I was able to do a lot of conference throughout the country, actually. And I can only be thankful for the people who supported me in the labs, but also the STEM program who was able to expose me to all these opportunities and send me to these conferences. So there was one in Arizona, Georgia, and I actually got awarded in Hawaii at the Hawaii Conservation Conference, and again, another award at the ERN conference in Washington, DC. So how is that tying into why I'm majoring GS program? Well, as you can see, I really wanted to do some research. I really wanted to experience the research, and I didn't want to do microbiology. And I discovered that my interest was sustainability, environmental science, and ecology. And so with all that, I was talking to people, and they told me that this program would be a great fit because, first of all, it's very flexible, as Barb and Michael have explained. It's versatile degree because then there is a wide range of jobs that we can apply for, and because it's so multidisciplinary. Later on, I noticed that there was the Miley mentoring program, and my mentor is actually in the audience right now. So Kong is one of our panelists. And so he is chaperoning me through this GS journey with a more, insider view as a student view rather than an advisor. And so that's very valuable for me to see that there's people who have graduated that can really advise us undergraduates going through this program. So yeah, it really suits my goal and just makes sense to go into this. So if you have any question, I'll be happy to take them. So feel free to drop them in the chat or just ask them. Okay, so I would want to say just to all the undergraduates here and possibly the high school students, once you reach your college experience, I think one of the main things to do is to get involved on campus, because this is how you really get exposed to all these opportunities, and then you get to know very amazing people who are there to help you advance through your journey. Okay. So now we're going to move on into the panelist section of our SOEST ʻina. So with us, we have three panelists, Diana Opera, Kongtran and Diamond Techera. All three of them have, again, graduated from SOEST with a bachelor's degrees in sciences, and they will be there to share the experience with all of you. So just to have a head start, I want you to introduce yourself and talk about your experience SOEST, why you chose your degree, what's your research about, what you think is relevant to share with our undergraduates. So yeah, we can start with Diana and go just in order, Diana, Kong, and then Diamond.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Diana Lopera. I think out of all the panelists, I'm the most recently graduated. I just got my Bachelor's of Science in Global Environmental Science this past summer. I just presented my research, and so, yeah. Currently, I am an intern, communications relations intern at the Board of Water Supply. This is made possible through the Ikevai program that Barb was talking about earlier. And I'm also a research technician at the He'ia National Estuarine Research Reserve, which was made possible through the research project that I did as an undergrad.
Amazing. Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Kung Tran. I'm from Lahaina, Maui, and I graduated in spring of 2019 with a Bachelor's of Science in Global Environmental Science. And I'm currently a second year master's student in urban regional planning at UH Mānoa. I started with a microbiology major my freshman year of college, and I switched over to GES in my sophomore year just because I learned more about microbiology and I had to go to med school if I wanted to make that degree count. And before college, I didn't know much about the environment or wasn't introduced to climate change until I went on a service project trip to Molokai with the YMCA of Honolulu, and that changed my perspective on how humans are changing the environment, and that led me to pursuing global environmental science. And I was very happy, very fortunate to participate in the program and graduate in degree.
He's also my mentor, just saying. Okay, last but not least, Diamond.
Hi, I'm Diamond. I guess 10 years ago, I started at KCC as an undergraduate. And in 2012, I went into the Global Environmental Science degree program. And I was terrified of the idea of having to do a senior thesis. And I also kind of realized that a lot of the undergraduate classes were very oceanography focused. And I really wanted to study more of like the environment on land, like hydrology, rocks, stuff like that. So I switched in, I think my second semester into the earth science degree program, which back then was called geology and geophysics. Like a lot of the people here, I participated in the Miley mentoring program, which is pretty much the reason why I decided to pursue grad school. I really didn't think at all about grad school until I met graduate students, and they were like, well, you should think about it. Like, what is even a PhD? Like, what do you do with that? As a PhD student, I still don't really know. First, I have to finish my PhD, and then I'll let you know what I do with it. But like Barb said, you know, there are a lot of options. There are a lot of places to go. I'm really worried about the employment rate, but I guess the unemployment rate isn't very bad once you get a job. And yeah, I guess I wanted to share with all of you, if you're high school students or undergraduates at KCC, that the SOEST open house is a really, really cool and fun way to get introduced to a lot of the different programs and labs and kind of the facilities that SOEST has to offer. And that really is the reason I chose to stay at home and choose a degree program in environmental science, was because of SOEST open house.
That's amazing. So as you can see, all three of our panelists have very different background and specialize in very different disciplines. I think that's very valuable to have a different point of view as when it comes to a degree, so you have exposure to different kinds of opportunities you have. Okay, so the second question, which ties into like after graduation, what is happening for everyone? So Diana, if you want to start.
All right. So a very common question I got after graduated is, why aren't you in grad school? Um, I grad school is in the picture, but it was a personal choice for me to go into the workforce. My whole undergraduate career, I was a full-time student. I had a job. Every summer was a different research internship. So I told myself, and through many conversations with my various mentors, I decided to take the year off. It might become two, who knows? But yeah, it's just by different circumstances, my personal life and everything that led me to make this decision.
Thank you, Diana. Okay,
Like I
Tom, you're
said, I
next.
am a second year master's student in the urban and regional planning degree. After graduating with my bachelor's, I went straight into grad school. It was I guess it was a tough decision for me, and it relied heavily on funding for graduate school. I was fortunate enough to get a National Science Foundation graduate fellowship scholarship, and if I didn't get that, I wouldn't be in grad school today. I would be looking for a job. And with that, all the experiences and knowledges I've gained from SOEST in my undergraduate degree, that helped me get I guess be competitive to getting this fellowship. And I couldn't be more grateful for what SOEST had helped me in my undergraduate degree. My undergraduate thesis was pertaining to coastal hazards. I wanted to find out the relationship of how beach loss and erosion was affected in the previous years on a coastline in Maui. And that translated to me going to master's, to grad school, because I'm interested now in disaster planning and how I can help local neighborhoods in Oahu be more resilient against disasters in the future.
Awesome. Okay, Diamond, you're next.
I guess I don't know what to do immediately after graduation, but I can tell you what my dream is. Um, I I really would like to be able to find a job here in Hawaii, maybe at KCC, maybe at UH, or at some kind of private um, company or something where I get to work with local communities. To me, one of the biggest problems that I see as a student in SOEST is that there's a huge disconnect between local communities and research scientists at the university. And I think if there was more interaction where, you know, research scientists thought more about local communities when they were writing their research grants and planning the different projects that they're going to be working on, if they were thinking about things from a community perspective, then it's a win-win. Everybody benefits from that research project. And likewise, I think that, you know, there's a really negative image sometimes of the universities for local communities. You know, my parents were like, why do you want to go to UH? UH is junk, go to the mainland. But it's actually a really great school, especially for ocean and earth science and stuff like that. So I really would like to work with communities, work with local high schools, people at the community college, to kind of bridge that gap and see more local students in SOEST and in these different kinds of jobs. Having local students being leaders in their own communities, because I think in the future, that's what's going to be really important for public policy and just what Hawaii needs to be better, especially with climate change and everything that's about to hit us. So that's my dream. I don't know what that dream looks like as in a job, but that's kind of why I went to do a PhD. I didn't know how I could do something like that with a bachelor's. So yeah.
Thank you so much for all your insights. So I know there is a question about fish ponds in the chat, and This is going to tie into our last question because Diana has experience in that. So we'll be talking about that. Okay. So I asked them if they wanted to share something about their experience, and we'll have several slides where they really they will go in detail about something that they really cherish and they want to share with all of you guys. Okay, so Diana, you have the hand.
All right, so this picture was, I guess you can say, a candid of us doing our job as a research technician with the Ha'ia National Estuarine Research Reserve. And so my job here is to help with a small team to install instrumentation in different monitoring sites across the Ha'ia wetlands and like building and setting up these instruments. And so as you can see how I'm in the field, and all of this was made possible because of the experiences that I built up during my undergraduate career. So if you can go to the next slide, the reason why I got this opportunity in the first place goes back to 2018, where I was selected as a Noah Hollings scholar. This is an amazing scholarship program by NOAA, and I'd be more than happy to share with you guys any information about this. But as a scholar, one of the components is to do a research project in any NOAA facility of your choice across the nation. And I stayed here in Hawaii, and with the Office of Coastal Management, they connected me with the Ha'ia National Estuarine Research Reserve, which is where I focus in the Ha'ia fish pond, where I look at how invasive species affect water circulation in the pond in hopes to be part of this big project to help restore this 800-year-old fish pond. And so I also knew that I needed a research component for my GES thesis. So I talked with my mentors and I formulated a plan to transfer this summer research internship into a year-long project so that I can like kill two birds with one stone, basically. And the connections I made led me to the opportunity that I am in today. Yeah. And if you go to the next slide. And then, so this one is another internship that I was a part of. The thing about undergrad is there's so much opportunities to do research as well as travel around the world. I can't say it's going to be the same today with everything that's going on, but as an undergrad, there are so many opportunities like this one. In the summer of 2018, I got to travel to Costa Rica and in the pre-montane wet forest and look at how a warming climate is going to affect an endemic lizard that's found only in Costa Rica. And yeah, so I guess the main takeaway is like, so these are just a few of the opportunities I got a part of, but really a lot of this has accumulated and helped made the opportunities that I have today possible.
That's super great. Thank you so much for sharing, Diana. Okay, so here's some of the work experience that Kong has. So if you want to detail a bit about your photos, you have 2 slides, by the way.
Okay, thanks, Keanu. I think going off what Diana said, I think my favorite memory of SOEST is it's kind of like a second family to me. It was like a second family to me. I think one of the hardest challenges for a freshman in college is like you're kind of on your own. When you're entering college, you're like alone and you're like trying to find your own path by yourself. When with SOEST, you're not like that. The faculty and the students are there to connect with you and to understand what your needs are and what advice they can give you. And that led me to understanding more about what I want to do in the future, how to guide my own path in undergrad with the help of my mentors and faculty advisors and fellow other students. Like Diana, I got the Noah Hollings scholarship in 2017, I believe. And this led me to like an enormous opportunity. I got to spend a summer in Huron, Ohio, right next to Lake Erie. I had a lake house, I guess you can say, next to Lake Erie, and I saw the sunrise every day. It was such an amazing experience. I never knew how big a Great Lake was until I actually saw it in person. I was an education intern at the Old Women Creek National Estuarine Research Reserve. And I got to learn more about how estuarine systems work. And I helped the locals understand how their properties, how their lake shore properties were affected by erosion from waves that were generated by Lake Erie. And I was able to learn more about the issues that arise in Ohio around environmental policies, and how the pollution issue at Lake Erie, such interesting things that I learned throughout my summer there. And this picture on the left, you'll see is my other NOAA Hauling Fellows. And after your internship at a NOAA facility, you'll get to return back to DC and present on your research there. And you get to see all your friends that you made through the NOAA Hauling Scholarship Program. Next slide, please. So these are the other types of things I've got to do while in Ohio. These are like kind of the side projects that the other interns mainly focus on that I got to help to. I've got to spend every week just like kayaking and canoeing at the estuary that was next to Lake Erie. This is the Old Women Creek that I was talking about. And that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, I say Diamond. If you want to share anything about your research and what's going on, any advice you have?
Sure. Yeah, I would say Barb is gonna laugh because Barb is the one who really pushed me for a lot of things. Don't be scared to travel. I was always so terrified because growing up, I never traveled much as a kid. And so Barb would really push me to apply for internships and to attend different conferences that were around the country. And now looking back, those were some of the best parts of undergrad, being able to experience different types of geoscience careers and research programs. Like I went to New Hampshire. I didn't even know where New Hampshire was when I applied for the internship. And then when I got it, I was like, holy crap, it's like Canada. And so I went to New Hampshire, but I did an internship program studying beach erosion, which I realized I could have done here, but it was really cool to be able to learn about how New Hampshire's coastlines change, especially with these really huge hurricane systems. I also got to work at the USGS and study hydrology. I can't even remember all of the other things that I've done, but I got to experience so many different things, and every part of it included traveling, whether it was locally in a state or across the country. And I think that that's a really cool part of being in SOEST, is that there's always so many opportunities, and a lot of the time you don't even have to pay for it. You get to travel to go to conferences, and there's so many opportunities for student scholarship where they pay your registration and sometimes even pay for your travel costs, that you get to go and experience like a whole new place, get to eat all of the different restaurants that we don't have in Hawaii, and get to meet all of these really cool scientists, network with all of these really cool people who have job opportunities. And yeah, I think just keeping an open mind, which I have had to learn to do, and it was really hard, but get a Barb in your life and she'll push you to do it. I don't know if there's a Barb at KCC. It used to be Auntie Kapiolani for me, but get someone who will push you. Maybe it's her by now, I don't know. But it really is, it's scary, but it's super rewarding.
Thank you so much, Diamond. I feel like it's very relatable, and I encourage everyone here to do the same. Okay, if you have last-minute questions for the panelists here, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can use the chat feature. I just want to ask the audience to just fill up our feedback survey that has been posted in the chat by Kalei, and thank all of our guests here in advance for accepting to come and talk at this pa'ina. Thank you so much, everyone. So if anyone has any question, please feel free.
Hi, I'm Johnny. I'm a student, a second-year student at Windward. I'm transferring to UH in December next semester. Keanu, I just want to say thank you for putting this together and did a good job. Very impressed.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Barb, Mike, Floyd says hi. He was the one who introduced me to the this ʻina and told me I should check it out. Be interesting, and it is. So he says hi to you guys. And Quan, real quick, I just wanted to say I'm from Erie, Pennsylvania. So yeah, the Great Lakes are huge. And I'm glad you have the summer there instead of the winter because it's a totally different environment. Aloha.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your feedback.
Can I just reply to a comment that Troy just put in the chat? I just wanted everyone to know that Miley is for current SOEST students, but it's also for future SOEST students. So if you are like Johnny, like a KCC student, a WCC student, or Troy, a KCC student, it can be a way of getting into SOEST. So it's basically, it's for people who are from Hawaii. So if you're from Hawaii and you're thinking about a SOEST major, you're very welcome to apply for Miley.
I think that's very important to point out, yes. Okay, if there is no last minute question, I know we're a little over time, but here are some of the contacts from that might be useful to all the prospective students. Once again, Dr. Michael Guidry is the SOEST undergraduate chair. Dr. Barb Bruno is a specialist at the Hawaii Institute of Geophysics and Paleontology. And then we have two academic counselors. One is Heather Saito. She was supposed to come today, but she had a last minute meeting to attend. So unfortunately, she cannot give us her insights today, but she asked me to leave her contact down just in case you need any additional information. And Lentina Villa, who is also a student academic counselor. I think she's specialized in you will go see her when we're close to graduation, right? Something like that.
Lentina's with GES.
Oh, Lentina is GES. Okay, thank you.
There is SOEST overall.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so any last minute question? Otherwise, thank you so much everyone for coming. Thank you to all our guest speakers. It's very valuable that you're helping me today, sharing your knowledge and expertise. To all the audience, don't forget to fill up our survey, and if there's anything else, you're good to go. We have a question about Miley. Is the Miley for ORE grad program as well?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
So the question goes, is the Miley mentoring program for the ORE or graduate program as well?
Yes, ORE stands for Ocean Resources Engineering, and they only offer graduate degrees. So you can't do an undergraduate major, but you could do a graduate major. And the way it works in the Miley program is the graduate students are the mentors, and undergraduates or prospective undergraduates are the mentees. So an ORE student could be a mentor for Miley.
Thank you, everyone.